Fevers. Also, lots of back and forth about fevers. So, do you treat it? Do you try and like suppress, like get rid of the fever? Do you leave it because you don't want to miss if it gets worse? So, what is your guidance on fevers?
So I've actually posted a couple fever videos recently, and people get heated. People did not like my videos. They got very excited. So fevers are your body's way of fighting an infection. The pathogens that are in our body that are causing the infection, they don't like when our body gets hotter. And so they tend to die and not replicate as much. So a fever is good in that it helps us recover from the pathogens. Fevers can be somewhat detrimental because when kids are hot, a lot of times they are uncomfortable, so they're not drinking as much, and when they're hot, they're losing more fluids. So you have to separate in your mind like what the temperature is from what the infection is, because they are kind of two different things. One's a symptom and one's the cause. My general recommendation with fevers is to treat the child and not the number on the thermometer. So if your child is running around the living room and jumping over things and drinking, let them ride, let them go. When they finally crash out and they look like they don't feel good, then we treat it. I think people get really wrapped up and really anxious. That mom's-anxiety related to the number on the thermometer is real. And people get really fixed on like the 104 number, and it's not about the number. It's about what the kid looks like. I think a lot of people get freaked out. It's a 104 fever, their brain's going to get fried, their proteins are going to denature. And that's not a thing. That's not a thing with fevers. That hyperpyrexia, or a fever that could really cause damage, is closer to 108 degrees, which most kids are not going to get to physiologically. And this is, like I said in the video, completely separate from a child that's left in a hot car. That physiology is different. And the 104 that was left in a hot car, that's a completely different situation. That is life-threatening. But a 104 fever in a child that is playful and active, you can treat them when they're uncomfortable, but if they're cool, just let them ride.
Is there a timeline? Like if your child has, even if it's like a low grade fever for a couple days, or like, I don't know, is there like a timeline where you would be like, oh, okay, this has been going on for a while now. Should we like investigate if something's going on?
Yeah, I think for each kid that's going to be a little bit different. And I think how they're acting during that illness is going to help determine what you need to do. If you've got a child with a history of urinary tract infections, you may go at 24 hours to the pediatrician and say, hey, we need to check this out, because waiting for that could be detrimental. If your child has a complaint that's a potentially treatable bacterial infection, then you'd probably want to get that checked out sooner. But if they've got a runny nose and a cough, a lot of times you can let that ride for a couple days, as long as they're playing, they're eating, they're drinking, their mental status is appropriate. But you always have your pediatrician to fall back on. So if you have any questions, just give them a call and say, hey, Johnny's had a fever for this amount of time and these symptoms. Do you think we need to come in? Do we need to go to the emergency room? Can we ride this out for a couple more days?